We have great shows here on the station. We have Covendom with Brian Kane and Levi Rowland and Eli Barnes every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Step into the mystical realms of Covendom, the spellbinding show where the secrets of witchcraft are unveiled. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or simply curious about the craft, Covendom offers an enlightening journey into the world of the wise. Tune in and transfer your perception of witchcraft through adept conversations of magical insights. Catch the magic on Witchcraft TV, Covendom, where the hidden becomes revealed.
Hey everybody, my name is Bryan Peters. I am a psychic medium in Akron, Ohio. My hope and plan for today and upcoming weeks is actually start diving into psychic development as well as starting to work on mediumship. So first thing I always like to talk about is when we start using those words psychic and mediumship, we are talking one and the same thing. So mediumship is using psychic energy and psychic abilities to actually tap into the spirit world. Psychic, a lot of people use that word differently and actually talk about the word prophecy or using it as a prediction type of thing. But it's also reading the energy in the room. I have a lot of great friends that are some amazing psychics, and they tend to be very empathic because they have that ability to tap in and actually turn on and touch into that energy. What I'm going to ask you guys to do as you guys are joining in today, I'm going to ask you guys for two favors. One, toss out where you're listening from, and also I'm going to ask you guys to share this out to your feed so that way we can get more people watching this. As you guys may or may not know, we are planning on doing this weekly as a way to tap in and turn on and actually start learning more about the spirit world and actually learning more about ourselves along the way. I do want to go ahead and remind everybody, I am one of the owners of the Healing Brew in Akron, Ohio. We are a metaphysical tea shop. I do offer private readings. I do offer online readings. I do also do quite a few different events throughout Northeast Ohio and even West Virginia. This coming weekend, I have an amazing event coming up at the venue. Actually, I should say it's the View, actually, in Wheeling, West Virginia. Is part of the holistic health and wellness fairs that I do with Carol Borowski. We are doing a dinner in Wheeling, West Virginia on Saturday. And then I am actually at the wonderful world of Wheeling, West Virginia at the Spiritualist Church, the Way Memorial, with Dottie and the crew, offering messages as well as teaching classes down that direction. So I'm always around. I always have a lot of things that I do offer. Education and teaching is one of those things that I myself actually enjoy the most. Coming in to the world of psychic mediumships, and even coming in working in the world of witchcraft, what I found out and what I realized is that a lot of us don't always get a traditional training. And what I mean by that, we don't have an instructor, we don't have a teacher who actually tells us how to do something. And and I'm going to say this: I also took a lot of classes where it seems like at the end of the class, you really don't learn much of anything. And so one of my things, as when I was starting forward, writing the book that I use for my psychic development classes, as well as working forward in different ways, I wanted to make sure there was a structured class and there was actually takeaways. There was actually ways for you to learn more about your gifts and how those work for you. Because we're going to talk about anchoring. We're going to talk about a lot of things that actually allow you to become a better reader along the way. One of the things that I'm going to talk about right now, and I want to throw it out there for the world to hear, and I'm going to be the first one to say it. I am not perfect. If you ask Mike, he might tell you I'm definitely not perfect, but I'm not perfect. I'm not 100% accurate, and no one out there ever claims to be. In the world of psychic and mediumship, we're about 70 to 80% right. So that means in the world of doing what we do, we're going to be wrong 2 out of 10 times. But as you're getting started, as you're learning this craft, that law of averages is going to be a lot lower. Not because it's a negative, but because it's a positive. Because you're learning, you're learning how to figure this out. You're learning how to read that energy. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to learn how to do something. And I want everybody to take a deep breath when I tell you what I want you guys to do. I want you to learn how to be wrong. I want you to learn how to be wrong. And by just identifying that I'm going to be wrong, and we're going to play in this energy, and I'm going to have fun and offer my gifts along the way. That doesn't mean go out there and give half-assed readings. That's not what I said, and I don't know if I'm even allowed to say those words, but I did it anyways. We're not going to do that, all right? We're not going to go out there and give bad information, but while you're learning, while you're developing your gifts, you're going to have to work with people. You're going to have to sit there and develop a relationship with individuals on a learning level. So that means you take time, you develop your gifts, you harness those abilities, and then you present it to and then as time progresses, you're able to turn around and offer that as a paid service. Take time, take an opportunity, take a breath, and learn and be wrong for a bit. It's okay. It's okay to be wrong with a bit. That's why you find someone who you can read with, who's going to look and go, nope, you know what, you're wrong. That's okay. It's okay to be wrong. But at the same time, you're going to end up eventually realizing they're going to be right more times than you're going to be wrong. Also, as we're getting into this, I always talk a lot about judgment as well as fear. Judgment and fear. Those are my two big words when it comes to getting into the world of psychic and mediumship. And I'm going to say them again: fear and judgment. And those are the two words you're going to hear me use all the time. When it comes down to it, fear is one of those things that actually keep us from actually turning into our true self and actually turning into our true potential. And then the judgment is not about other people. Yes, other people are going to judge us. Yes, other people influence us. But more importantly, those judgments come from inside of us. And as we're starting to do the work, we're going to get in our head and actually not present the information as we should because we doubt ourselves. Or better yet, those voices in our head are a lot harsher to us than what we'd say to another living human being. So we make sure we want to take time and take a breath and everything else like that. What I am also going to say, guys, if you're going to do me a favor, and as you guys are watching and everything like that, what I'm going to ask you guys to do for me.
Our special guest, Bryan Peters, just lost his technical abilities, but he will be back with us really, really shortly, and we will play a small commercial break and hopefully have him right back, right here, Witchcraft TV.
Hi, my name is Livia, and you're watching Witchcraft TV. You can find my pagan music at liviamusic.com.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for that. I actually had a blip of technical difficulty, and I actually have to apologize. When I'm working in spirit, and when we have a lot of spirit around, my tech skills tend to go to the birds, and I think part of the problems in that isn't so much myself. I actually think they tend to step in and interfere with electronics more than I want them to. That as I was saying, and where we were actually starting. Talk. We were talking about judgments and how we judge ourselves and stuff like that. Also, as we're doing this today, if you guys have questions, I want you guys to ask your questions. Also, if there is something you guys want me to give you a reading on, if there's something you want me to get in and actually have a discussion on, if it's something going on in your life, I'm happy to do so. I'm also happy to do it in a private setting and stuff like that. Private setting, unfortunately, is going to involve a cost that is going to be on a personal level. But if we do something here on air, it's going to actually be part of the show, also be free of charge for you guys and stuff like that. All I ask is that if it's something you guys, if there's information that you liked, information you wanted to hear, I'm gonna ask you to share it out for me, and even share it off as information you didn't want to hear. All right. As we're talking, we talked about the fear and judgment, and those are part of those conversations that we're really going to start looking at, and we're going to start getting into. But what we got to do is we got to understand that fear runs our life. In a lot of ways, fear is how we operate. Fear is our friend. Fear keeps us comfortable, and it's that same voice in our head that says, "Well, that can't be right." When in reality, it is what keeps it right and true in our head. So, what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to take a breath. I want everyone to take a breath, and I want you to do me a favor. I want you to figure this out for me. What's 25 times 5 times 6? Do the math for me. Don't pull out don't pull out the paper, don't pull out the pencil. I want you to take a minute and actually try to figure it out in your head. And I'm going to say instantly, what we all do is we start looking up. We start looking up at the blackboard in the back of our head. That is thinking. That is us trying to figure it out. That is us trying to get into the situation and trying to ascertain exactly what's going on. We're calculating. We know that 2 plus 2 is 4. We know what those calculations are. That is our logic mind. Now I want you guys to take a breath, and I want you to start talking about your knowing. I want you guys to say, I am male, I am female, I am a son, I am a female, I am a divine being, I am a psychic, I am a medium. Those you should know. You should feel those in the core of your being. So your thinking, you should feel it up here. Whereas that knowing, you might feel it in your chest, you may feel that in your stomach, and that's actually where we want to feel that at. Because what that tells us is we're not in that thinking. We can't figure it out. If someone asks you their mom's name and you're like, oh, your mom's name was Mary, there's no logical way for you to know that. Unless you've met the person in the past, there's no logical way for you to figure it out. You have to know it. Spirit has to tell you it, and you have to know it. That's the end. That is the biggest conversation. Whenever we're talking about this, we want to talk about knowing. One of my biggest conversations I talk to my students all the time is say, you don't want to use the word thinking as you're working with someone. You're not thinking. You're knowing what you're talking about. You know it. There's a major difference. We're not figuring this out. I know that it's a male. I know that it's a female. I know what's going on there. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. One of the things I'm also going to talk about is we're going to talk about tools. We're going to talk about tools of the craft, everything like that as we go throughout the weeks. I want to talk about pendulums. I want to talk about Ouija boards. If we can get some people interested and we get people in attendance, we can talk about table tipping. We can even talk about trance mediumship. We can talk about cabinet work. There's a lot of conversations that I would love to bring into this because I feel it would be a way for people to learn more about the spirit world and also learn more about how spirit's not that harmful. Yes, I said Ouija boards. That's a whole other conversation. If you guys want to do me a favor in the comments, if you have any experience with Ouija boards, I want you to write them down for me. I'll look at those comments down the road. And what we'll do is we'll actually use those for a Ouija board talk here down the road. So back to that knowingness. That is what we really want to focus in, is we want to know what we're stepping into. So what we want to do is we want to take that breath and get into that knowingness, right? We want to know exactly what we're getting into. We want to know that this energy is male. We want to know this energy is female. Intuition is instant. The moment you open your mouth, you know it. What I don't want people doing is if it takes you 5 minutes to calculate that it's a male, you've already talked yourself out of it 5 times over. First word you get. When I first started reading, I actually made myself a deal. If I second guessed myself, if I said it was male and it was female, and then I said, oh, maybe it's female, I always went with the first instinct, first response. As soon as any other words entered into my head, I was wrong. The moment it happened, I literally set myself up for failure because I was trying to second guess myself. I was trying to talk myself out of what I already knew. It's instant, guys. Think about it. It's instant. How instantly did you know that you're a male? How instantly did you know that you're a female? How instantly do you know that you are a divine being? How instant do you know those information? And that's what it's really about at the end of the day. Those conversations are what we know, and that's what we want to tap into. And and so it's the same thing I tell people the same ways when you're working with a pendulum. You want to work with information that you know before you work with information you don't know, because you want to train your tool. You want it to work the way you need it to work. And if you ask questions you know the answers to, then you can start get confident information in that. It's the same working with spirit world. I want information that I know is true, so I have evidence. So now that we can validate who we're talking to. A lot of mediums, a lot of psychics work with spirit, and they don't provide evidence. They don't provide information for you to truly know who you're talking to. And at the end of the day, that's what it's really about. Because evidence is key here. Mediumship. When you really start looking at mediumship that we know nowadays, coming from that 1800 time frame, is supposed to be evidence based. It's supposed to be scientific evidence based. It is supposed to be, here's the proof that spirit exists by me being able to provide this information to you. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. What questions do we have, or what questions do we have out there, guys? We're going to try this again. This is where I ran into a problem last time. I know what this is. All right, guys, I apologize. Every time I look at my chat, I'm actually closing out the window. So I'm gonna have to work on how to look at chats and stuff like that. So I have to make sure that as you guys are commenting, do me a favor, make sure you're commenting so I don't have to look at this screen, because if I have to flip to this other screen, I'm gonna lose you here along the line. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to end up causing Harold here more issues, or better yet, I don't want him not to invite me back. Um, so I did here in probably just about 2.5 weeks ago. At the beginning of the year, I actually did a prediction show. You know what? I don't have a problem with that, Christine. I don't have a problem with psychics and mediums helping law enforcement. I really don't. And I think that is actually showing evidence. That is showing that you actually have proof of what you're doing. And that's what it's all about. You know, it's that in some regards, I think that is showing that we actually have that ability to tap in a professional setting. And you know, it's no different than the psychics working with the military, doing remote viewing during the Cold War and stuff like that. It's the same conversation. Psychics have always been used to be able to answer questions we don't know the answers to. And I think it's time to demonize being psychic and actually use it in ways that actually works even better. I also kind of think it's also interesting when people start talking about the conversation, when we start talking about the word psychic versus intuitive. I think those are two words nowadays that we're kind of learning. We're changing the vocab on, and you'll hear about like the intuitive medicine. You'll hear about the intuitive doctors and stuff like that out there that are out there now. And really, what they are, they're working in that psychic energy. But because that word psychic has had such a negative side effect, a lot of people don't want to use that word. They're not open to using those words anymore, and so they're finding a different way to work with it. It's just like I have a friend who keeps wanting to call me a prophet. And every time she calls me a prophet, I have to I have to second guess her. Because in my world, being psychic is the guy who stands there and rings the bell, and has a sandwich board and says the end of the world is nigh. To me, that's a prophet. And normally for me, it's normally more of on a religious conversation, and normally they're the ones that, like I said, have the sandwich board and the bell. So for me, that's prophecy versus being psychic. To me, you know, you have a tendency to have to have accuracy involved and stuff like that. And I think that's real where this world, the world of professional psychics and professional mediumships, really step into it. I've actually worked with a couple of attorneys. I've worked with a couple of lawyers before trying to pull information. And I've even worked with people who were saying, hey, I think this person is stealing from me. What can you tell me? How can you help me out? Is it admissible in court? No. But at the same time, if it helps you gain information and lead you in the right direction, absolutely. That being said, I have some friends in England who are in the process right now. They're looking at the ethics in mediumship and psychic. And the more and more as psychics and mediums are becoming more in the forefront, more in doing this work, I think it's more important now than ever. We actually start developing ethics, a board, a counseling board to actually start talking about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and are we doing it in the right and in the best way possible for our clients. I think more than anything, I think that's more important because the days of psychics and mediums telling people that they have a curse and here's $5,000 to remove this curse have gone to the wayside, and we really need to start looking at this as the professional healing work that it is. Really, truly, Rhonda, as far as readings go, for me to really start trusting my instincts, I really was starting to read about a year or two in reading shares and doing things in different ways. And then I sat down and had a conversation with Spirit and said, if this is what we're doing, well, this is what we're going to end up doing. And I told Spirit, if you're gonna make me do this, we better make sure we're accurate. And from that point on, I didn't look back. And that's really what it was. It was just once I knew I had it, you're golden. And I think the problem here is a lot of us get in that mindset where our gut told us something, we didn't trust it, we didn't believe it, and then what ends up happening is the next time it comes up, we doubt that it's what we heard. We doubt that, or whatever the case may be. And so it's really about locking in, trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, and know that you're able to do it and tap in. Also, I know a lot of psychics out there use tarot cards. I'm not a big tarot card person when it comes to psychic readings. They have their place. They're a tool in their own right. But if I'm working intuitively, if I'm working more on a psychic level, I prefer oracle cards. I prefer a crystal ball. I prefer tea leaf readings. I prefer more of those tools because what it allows you to do is it allows you to step into that intuition. It allows you to step in and actually create a bigger conversation, and it doesn't lock you in. Whereas as more of a tarot deck tends to be a lot more regimented, a lot more locked in, and you have to read the card the way it is, and it starts causing problems for you and for your client. So for me, I really try to mix it up, what tools I use and how those work for me. What ways do you guys use to build your intuition? Anyone out there have any ideas on what's good ways to build your intuition? One of the ways that I actually really like to work with intuition and building intuition with students when we're working on one-on-one and even when we're working in a class setting is as we start working with cards more and more, what I do is I actually tell my client to pull the card in the morning. And what we're going to do is that card, I'm going to tell you. So, okay, two rules of thumb, and I just broke my first rule. One, what I want you to do is I want you to start pulling your cards at the end of the day. We all pull cards in the morning. Don't do it. I want you to pull it at the end of the day. And what I want you to do is I want you to ask your deck, how was my day? And so now you're seeing that your card, you pulled the nine of spades. You pulled the nine of spades from a playing deck of cards. You maybe pulled the tower card if you're pulling from a tarot deck. Whatever the case may be, what I want you to do is I want you to look at that card and I want you to say, oh, that was my day. So now your day was you maybe got you got in a car accident, you got a speeding ticket, whatever that was, and now you can attach that memory to that card. Next day, I want you to do it again. And now I want you to start doing that. What you're doing is you're actually starting to build a Rolodex with spirit. So that way, the next time that card comes up for you in a reading for someone, you literally have a opportunity to talk about, hey, I remember when this happened to me with this card. Now you have a conversation that you can start bringing up, and spirit now has a Rolodex to start working with you with. And it gives you those insights. It gives you those moments that you can say, you can be like, oh, you got a speeding ticket, didn't you? And you're like, and they're like, yeah. And you have those insights, you have those moments to actually be able to tap in, turn on, and actually start learning how to trust that gut. Also, I think one of the things that actually helped my intuition 9 times over was one, being more consistent with readings when I'm offering readings, being, doing more at a time. The other thing is, I also do a lot of platform work, and I think platform really starts really getting you to trust that intuition even more so. It makes you trust yourself because platform, for those who do not know, you're actually working in front of a group of people, and as we always say, you're working without a net. And so what that means is you're actually having to start working one on one with that energy, and actually starting to present that information, if it's spirit or if it's psychic. Both ways work. It just depends on what works for you. So does anyone out there want a reading? Yeah, psychometry is a great one for intuition boosting. And I also like when you use psychometry. A lot of people don't realize when we're doing energy work, when you're doing Reiki, that's also psychometry by itself, where you actually have your hands on the person. A lot of times, your old school mediums that actually hold hands, you're still in that psychometry energy. And a lot of people who are empathic find psychometry is a very strong and good way to work. Also, guys, you may notice I'm sick. Rhonda, can I ask you for a favor? I'm gonna do this a little bit different. Can I get a month and day of birth? I don't need the year. So just if it's January 1st or whatever the case may be. So what one of the things I want to talk about right off the bat is because you are an 8, which means you're a manifester, which means you have that ability to go out there and create a lot of things for yourself and for those people that are around you. What I did was I did a little bit of numerology there with your month and day of birth. Because you're that manifester, there's a lot of things that we have to remember. We want to make sure we're focusing on manifesting the good, not manifesting the bad. Because if you ask for something and it shows up, we got to make sure we're asking for the right things and not those things that we don't want to show up in our life. And I think right now it's about you getting ahead of yourself and actually starting to work on how to manifest those things the way that works the best for you. Also, I have to talk about a lot of new beginnings for you right now. I kind of feel like we have a lot of new things that are out there. We have a lot of new growth, a lot of new energies that I see that we're moving forward on. For me, this feels almost to me, this feels more business related than anything. Also, I also want to talk as we start talking about that. I also feel like we have a transition in a job coming up here at the end of next year as well. And I'm going to say I don't know if this is a hope, but I definitely feel we have a transition for the job coming up here probably by the end of next year. Did you have any other questions? Also, Rhonda, as I was actually stepping into your energy and stuff like that, I also had a male figure who also stepped forward with you at the same time. He's very much giving me more of a father energy with you. And he's also talking a lot about breathing for me at this point in time, or there's a lot of stuff going on in his chest. I feel a lot of love. He's also identifying another female uh, he keeps wanting me to bring up another younger female that he keeps wanting me to talk about. I don't know if we have or had a sister, but he's definitely focusing on another. I'm going to say another sibling there. All right. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Anyone else want a reading, or anyone else have another question? Thank you, Christine. So 8, 7, 5, 6. You're a 6. So one of the things we're going to talk about is as it's this is just a fun way for me to interact with you guys. But as a 6, right now I'm going to tell you I want you to focus on you. Right now, your entire life's mission is for you to focus on yourself. So what happens is if we're focusing on everybody else, we end up leaving ourselves in the dust. And I'm going to say, I think that turns around and affects us on an emotional as well as a physical level. And so, a lot of times, if people are feeling things on that physical level, we're going to talk about lupus. We're going to talk about chronic pain. We're going to talk about things like that. The reason is we're worrying about everybody else. We're not taking those breaths and taking those times to kind of focus in on ourselves and everything like that. One of the other things I also want to kind of talk about as I step into this, I also have a lot of stuff going on with the shoulder or something like that as we're also talking. I'm just going to identify it and kind of pass that information on to you as well. Was the I also have a conversation or something as I step into that energy. I really feel like we are going to have some, this year is going to be a very much of a magic year for you. I feel like we're going to end up being able to create more and have more magic and be working much more on our spiritual path this year. And I really feel like this year and this coming year is all going to be about you working on finding that inner magic, as well as finding that inner conversation for you and kind of learning how to tap in and turn on. Christine, did you have any other questions? Can I have a month and day of birth, Sean? It'll just help me out. It's but one and the same, Christine. Dreams, intuition, clairvoyant is all the same thing. It's how it works for you. And what I'm going to say is a lot of times if we're seeing stuff in our dreams, it means we finally got ourselves out of our head. We got ourselves into that theta level. And so spirit can actually start doing the work for us. So what I'm going to tell you is we got to work on meditation and actually kind of bringing ourselves down into those moments of clarity. And that's why meditation is so important because I can start surveying my feelings, my emotions, and understanding where they're coming from. Are they mine? Are they my sitters? Or are they coming from spirit? I didn't need the year, but thank you very much for it. So for 7. You're another 7, dear. So what that tells me is that you tend to be very much a magical, very much a spiritual person. And what I want to let you know is that that tells me you need to be doing spiritual work. That does not mean getting out there and saying I'm being spiritual. What it means is actually doing the work. I want you to sit there, take a moment, learn how to actually tap in, turn on, and actually do your meditation, do your ritual work, do those things that instead of saying that I am going to do them, take that time and actually start focusing in because I really feel like this year, if you put it into practice, you're actually getting a lot more out of it more than ever. I also feel like we have a hefty job change coming up in a positive way. I have a very strong financial conversation that I want to see coming up for you. I really feel by June or July, you're going to see those changes coming in for you. And I don't know if the two are related though. I don't think magic and your job is related. And if it is, good for you. But I really feel like we have a job situation coming up here in July that I really want to talk about for you. Are you also in the medical world, Sean? Okay. One of the things you might see me do is you might see me take a breath, or take a moment or stare off at the space. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tap in and turn on and listen to my team. And sometimes it makes me look like I'm extremely autistic, and I'm really not, I swear. I want you to focus more into it. Really, truly want you to jump into their rituals and stuff more than ever. Because I feel like you need that to be able to connect. And natural medicine, you're in the world of being a practitioner. So absolutely. Are you planning on graduating in July by chance? So that tells me we need to make sure we're taking Reiki classes, we're taking hands-on healing classes, and things like that. All right, guys. As we start wrapping up here, I'm gonna plan to be off here in a couple minutes. What I want you guys to do is do me a favor. I want you guys to take a moment and actually start tossing out here on ideas that you would like to see me cover, topics you want me to kind of work on and kind of cover. If you're like, hey, I really want you to talk about this, kind of put it in a chat. That way I have an opportunity to kind of look at it, and we'll try to do my best to kind of present that information to everybody. All right. Also, feel free to reach out to me at thehealingbrew.com, schedule a reading, or if you have any comments or concerns, pass them that my direction that way as well. All right. I'm going to say it this way: your shadow work is your. I saw the end. I want to make sure I don't jump ahead of you if there's additional information there. Are you? I need to feel better. All right, guys. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come on today. Look for us again here in a week, and we will see you guys later. All right. Bye, guys.